Now, Sir Keir, upon being made a Queen's Counsel, when your hair was right dark, you said on video, "It's ironic you're a Queen's Counsel, as you had long campaigned for the abolition of the monarchy." Do you still stand by that, sir? Of course, a knighthood can make a big difference. Keir Starmer, the so-called leader of the so-called Labour Party, is outed this very day as a Republican, or at least he was. But he has a point, doesn't he? Surely in the 21st century. My eyes opened wide this morning when I saw that Her Majesty the Queen, God bless her cotton socks, has called on us, you may say, commanded us, to accept Camilla as the Queen in the due course of events, of course. I can't accept that. I can't accept that Charles will be the king, because I never picked him, and I don't fancy him at all. I don't fancy him to stay out of politics, and I think his politics are zany, to be kind and generous, as is my usual want. I don't want King Charles interfering in parliamentary affairs. I don't want him interfering with his woke, hug a husky, talk to the trees, green manias. I don't want him to do that. I don't want to have to pay for him to do that, and pay him a very great deal of money indeed. I want to have a grown-up country. Once Her Majesty the Queen has passed, I want a referendum on what we need to do about Britain's governance, whether we should continue the monarchy at all, and if we should continue it, on what terms should we continue it? Why can't we pick Princess Anne instead of Prince Charles to be the next monarch if we are to have one? Do you see where I'm going here? A grown-up country, a mature democracy, has a right to decide who will be its head of state. I'm not arguing for an elected president, although if there is one, I'll run for it. I'm arguing for a purely titular head of state, like the President of Ireland, for example, like the President of Germany, for example, with no political power of any kind and no right to interfere in the political process in any way. The Parliament could pick the head of state. A Senate, instead of the House of Lords, could pick the head of state. For everyone who says to me, "What, do you fancy President Tony Blair?" Tony Blair would never run for that office, because then you'd know how much money he was earning and from where he was earning it. On this day in 1649, the Rump Parliament of Oliver Cromwell passed the resolution to discontinue the system of monarchy. That was in 1649. Isn't it time that we in Britain had a grown-up conversation about this subject? Nobody asked me if Camilla should be queen, but I'm asking you in the poll that we've got running now, should Camilla be queen? A, yes. B, no. It'll be interesting to see how that comes up. I think that the British will be ready for such a referendum. I may very well lose it, although I'm quite good at fighting referenda. As you know, I won in Scotland, I won over Brexit, and I'll campaign with all my heart for a grown-up, democratically chosen head of state for Britain. I may lose it. I probably will lose it. But at least we'll have had a say on who is to be entitled to call themselves our head of state. Just my view. Let me know on the polls, on social media, and by calls what you think we should do about it. Also, on this day or in the last day or two, somebody called General Colin Powell, now deceased, who was then the United States Secretary of State, actually went to the United Nations and told a pack of lies so portentous, so momentous, so murderous, that I hope he now resides in the fires of hell, because Colin Powell's lie that Iraq had weapons of mass destruction in volumes, when even this vial could wipe out New York City or whatever else he said, it doesn't get more serious than that. And of course it was echoed by that friend of liberty, plain Jack Straw, still plain because having been caught in a Chinese takeaway by Channel 4's dispatches with a camera up their jumper, selling himself to a fictitious company to the highest bidder for £5,000 a day, Jack Straw, our Foreign Secretary, and Colin Powell, the United States' Foreign Secretary, told a pack of lies that can scarcely be exaggerated. Because 1 million people are dead because of it. 1 million people. Imagine that. How high a pile of corpses that would be. That's what Colin Powell did on this day, all those years ago. But I'm asked to believe the current incarnations of Colin Powell and Jack Straw when they tell me that Russia is imminently about to invade Ukraine. And the disturbing thing for me is that so many people who know that they were lied to by the same liars that are lying to them now are ready to believe this latest generation of lies and the latest generation of liars. That's truly disturbing to me. You know, Einstein said that doing the same thing over and over again and expecting a different result is a sure sign of insanity. Yet so many of our people are insanely falling for the same old lies, oftentimes from the same old liars, certainly from the same broadcasters and newspapers that lied to them before and are lying to them now about Russia, lying to them now about China, but who have fallen for it over again. As the WHO put it, don't get fooled again. And I honestly thought that more of our people would have learned their lesson than plainly have done so, because I see it in my voluminous correspondence on social media, where I have millions of followers who send me thousands of messages, tens of thousands of messages. And it's quite plain that many of our people are literally sheep being led by the same old suspects into the same old pen of war and destruction. The New York Times, which told us that Powell was telling the truth then, are telling us that Biden and Blinken are telling the truth now, even though Biden was a liar then and is a liar now. I'm looking on my screen at Blinken denouncing Russia for banning the German broadcaster Deutsche Welle, without a single reference to the fact that this is in retaliation to Germany banning RT in German. How can people write that stuff with a straight face? And how can people be so stupid but to swallow it up? That's what I'm asking myself. I'm asking myself why we should boycott Joe Rogan in the United States, but we should take money from Sawbones himself, the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, who sawed a Washington Post columnist into pieces. I'm wondering why. We should boycott the Winter Olympics in China, but embrace the World Cup in Qatar. I'm wondering why you're all so stupid out there that you cannot see the contradictions in all of this, that you cannot see these lies, that you keep falling for them over and over and over again. And then there's Boris Johnson. He's got a new broom. He's sweeping out the old in Downing Street, although whether all of them had to be pushed before they jumped is a moot point. But he's just appointed as his head of communications Guito Hari, a third division BBC presenter who failed to make it at GB News as his head of communications to sort all of Boris Johnson's problems out in Britain. Even though Guito Hari just a couple of months ago described Boris Johnson as sexually incontinent and dragging the Conservative Party and Britain to destruction. The same Guito Hari that was a lobbyist for Huawei, which we have banned in Britain on national security grounds. The same Guito Hari that was a campaigner to remain in the European Union when Boris Johnson's entire shtick is that he got Brexit done. Guito Hari wants to take Britain back into the European Union, just like this block of wood, just like the BBC and the liberal media and virtually every working journalist in Britain today, just like virtually every broadcaster in Britain today. Talk about clasping an asp unto your breast. If Boris Johnson thinks that Guito Hari is the answer, it must be a very stupid question. But the real question is this. In this sea of troubles in which we are afloat, at home and abroad, is there anyone serious out there that think Boris Johnson or Keir Starmer are the answer? Is there anyone who believes that this ramshackle, dysfunctional, utterly failing state of ours is the best that we can be? We are the people that invented the steam engine. But I arrived just in the nick of time for this show tonight because of an utterly, calamitously mismanaged, underinvested, hodgepodge, Heath Robinson railway system in Britain in 2021. Our gas prices are about to triple And this man's Labour Party wants our energy sector to remain in the hands of the vulture capitalists who snapped it up when it was privatized. He opposes the return of energy, of water, of railways back into public ownership. Is there anyone who believes that this is as good as it could be for us? Our people is a great people. Our industrial revolution transformed the world. Our inventors, our engineers, our builders, our shipbuilders, our miners, our nuclear technicians, our fintech technicians, our artists, our musicians, our writers, our language. We were kings once. Now we're waiting for Charlie to be our next monarch.